people at a highly vulnerable position. Today, there is a need to ask, in what ways is the youth or social media influencers, leaders, and activists, be it online or offline? The challenge then is, how can you bring all these capacities together and map it out into a coherent, powerful, and influential youth agenda? As young people across the world gather here today, there is a need to confront many important questions. Among them, in what ways can you represent and advance the interests of the most vulnerable groups, particularly children and young people? How can the skills, tools, and technologies you possess revolutionize the way the world responds to climate change and urbanization? And finally, how can the new urban agenda empower the youth? And how can you, as the youth, shape the new urban agenda? eClay, where I am affiliated, is a leading global network of more than 1,500 cities, towns, and municipalities. eClay began with a fundamental idea that a single town, city, or municipality has a significant global impact. At present, 25 years young, eClay continues to be a pioneer and leader in urban sustainability. And like the youth, we remain bold and ambitious. The youth has always played a crucial role in our advocacy. In 2014, eClay hosted the first Youth and Mayors Forum on Climate and Sustainability in New York in collaboration with UN Major Group Children and Youth. The forum was aimed at creating an opportunity of dialogue with the youth and ambitious global leaders. For the first time, mayors from across 5 continents met with youth groups across the world. The meeting has inspired new ideas for collaboration, which will be announced in Habitat 3 in Quito. Among others, ePlay has also launched in 2000.
Thank you, Norman. So we will now have a few short presentations by our experts, followed by a Q&A session. So I'd like to hand over to our co-chairs and moderators for the session, Ibu Kita from BNPB and Malashri, the DRR specialist in UN OCHA Indonesia, who will co-chair the panel. So I hand over to you, Malashri and Ibu Kita.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. So before we move to the next session, or the plenary session, I would like to show you some preview from the government of Indonesia, especially from the National Disaster Management Authority, what have been done and what must we do towards a resilient city in Indonesia. This is just a simple and quick presentation for me, just to preview all of you. Towards resilient city in Indonesia. Okay. The elements is outcome of the reduction losses in human and property, also reduction of risk, and losses in livelihoods, economic, social, environmental, and cultural assets. In this background, I would like to highlight that Indonesia has main indicators, 71 indicator based on the Center for Disaster Risk Reduction to measure the decrease or increase the disaster risk index in Indonesia. Next. And then, what must we do to make the urban resilience to the disasters? We must make a good cooperation and partnerships between line ministries. There is 37 line ministries that including to the disaster risk reduction, and then human resource, science and technology, governance, spatial linkage, integrated dimension, and financial investment. Next. And what must we do to reduce risk index? Indonesia had a National Action Plan on Disaster Management 2015 until 2019, 6 action plan. And then collaborating national urban development strategies, policies and strategies. We have 6 key activities and 9 indicators. Next. And then we must convergence of the RNCCA and DRR into SDGs indicator. The fifth MCDRR in Yogyakarta has declared a national action plan on disaster management, especially refers to the regulation of health BP number 2 2012. And then to make the urban resilience to the disaster, we must see the SDGs point 11 that makes cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, sustainable. The RR is an integral part of social and economic development and is essential to be a sustainable for the future. And this is the new 10 essential for local resilience that we came from the Center for Workforce Disaster Risk Reductions. For essential 1 and 3, we call it enabling essential, and then for operational essentials, it mentioned the essential 4 until 10. Next. So, urban resilience and the national plan and action on disaster management mainstreaming with national plan. This transforming our world with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and then a Sendai Framework for the RR, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and then Paris Agreement, and so many agreements that we have to reduce the disaster risk reduction. Next. Thank you. There is some simple review from government side of Indonesia. Thank you. Next, maybe Malasri, you will add some more your experience in Indonesia, especially in the making of the report and the baseline country status report for the IR. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu, and good afternoon, everyone. So, next. As you know, that the world governments and all the countries have been signing sustainable development goals. Everyone is looking forward for implementing SDGs now for next 30 years. However, really SDGs is sustainable development goals, and development cannot be really sustainable unless we target, unless we integrate the disaster risk management and climate change. Everything is really causing disasters induced by the climate change, of course. So the world, the cities are, it's important that our cities are disaster risk management friendly. So we see here that last year in 2015, apart from SDGs, there were the Paris Agreement, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, World Humanitarian Summit, which took place this year, which addresses the conflict part of disasters. These were signed just to make sure that the development in the world is really sustainable. Next, please. Um, However, when we talk about urban resilience, the SDG 11 is been attributed as the SDGs, for uh, urban preparedness and urban resilience. However, we see that urban resilience also impact the achievement of other SDGs. For instance, SDG first, which is low poverty, with the proliferation of the slums. The SDG second, zero hunger. The SDG 3, SDG third on good health, the SDG 14 of life in water, climate action, SDG 13, and also SDG 15, life on land. So this SDG is a multi-purpose, it has a number of multi-purpose indicators which are linked to the other SDGs. And next, so these are some of the SDGs which show the interrelationship within. So 11.5, 11.B, 11.C, these are the indicators which are directly related to disaster risk reduction within SDG goal number 11. Um, Next, please. However, we see that SDGs really now, Sustainable Development Goal talks really about the participation of youth in this and climate. So climate change, adaptation, and disaster risk reduction should be integrated together so that youth can also play an important role in community-based disaster risk management and adaptation. Next, please. So Indonesia is really going very ahead and is advancing very well in SCTRR rollout. According to Indonesia's disaster risk index, around 90% of the cities and districts are either under high risk or medium risk. So SCTRR and Indonesian government presently is preparing its national baseline status report for disaster risk management in line with SINDAG framework, and also aligning the RPJMN, and the RPJPN, that is the long-term national development strategy with disaster risk management frameworks. Next, please. We are currently KPP is preparing the four main documents, which is Indonesia's national baseline status report for disaster risk management. This will be a baseline report to be monitored until 2030. The second is the Indonesia's volunteerism in DRM, volunteerism in disaster risk management report. The third is Indonesia's urban development baseline status report, which will also be monitored from 2015 until 2030. And of course, there are also the roadmap for SFDR implementation. And all these documents, these reports which are being prepared will be monitored every 2 years, and will be also presented in Asian Ministerial Conference for Disaster Risk Reduction this year in November in New Delhi. Next, please. The documents will be, these reports will be used by the Indonesian government, by the DRM stakeholders in the country, such as NGOs, private sector, media, academia, communities, and of course, it will set as an example also for the other countries in the region and the disaster-prone countries. And I think later we are actually going to have a focus group discussions, and we can discuss it in detail. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Malasri. And ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, next we will have three speakers here, right, in front of us. And first of all, I would like to introduce, simple introducing three of them. The first one is Miss Angeli Alba. She is a communication officer from the Habitat for Humanity International Asia Pacific. And then the second one is Miss Him Sadiq from UNDP or UNDP Disaster Reduction Health Volunteer Network in Myanmar. And then last but not least, Mr. Marvin Legoniara from ICLAY Southeast Asia Secretariat. So now the first speaker will be Ms. Angeli Alba. Time is yours.
Right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you don't mind if I stand up. Okay, just to get more positive energy going. Okay, so I am from the Habitat for Humanity International Asia Pacific Regional Office in Manila. You can find me in those emails or on Twitter, since we're all young here. Let's talk on Twitter. So Angeli underscore Alpha and at Habitat YLB. Okay, next please. So next please. So Habitat for Humanity International is a non-profit organization which envisions a world where everyone has a decent place to live. We are now 40 years old. We began working in shelter in 1976, and in fact, we are actually part of Habitat One, Habitat Two, and we are excited to be part and to be providing aid for Habitat this as well. Globally, Habitat has served 6.8 million families into moving into safe and shelter. In Asia Pacific, that number is about 2 million families served. And next please. So what do we do? Habitat works with families or organizations to build strength, stability, and self-reliance to shelter. And in the course of that work, we also want to reduce risks. In Asia Pacific, as you all know, if you live here, you are 8 times more likely to experience a disaster in your lifetime than if you are living anywhere else. And in the last 11 years, we actually responded to 60 disasters across Asia Pacific alone. And we see every disaster response network as a way to build back better, safer, and also build resilience. Next, please. So when disaster strikes, our question always is, how do you move from having temporary shelter to having a permanent home, just like that? It's easy. And we do that by working framework called pathways to permanence. There's a lot of words there, but just means that one, we know that families have different ways and different timelines of moving from from a crisis into having a permanent home. Next, please. Okay, a lot of doodles there. Next, please. So we know that there are different ways. There's a process that families undergo from having crisis, going to a permanent shelter, and then having that with them every step of the way, provide holistic interventions. And of course, all the way going towards a progression towards permanent solutions. Next. Okay, and in the course of that, we want to reduce the risk, build resilience from the ground up for every family business. We want to make sure that they won't have to deal with the disaster again, won't have to stress their home. And actually, I want to bring you to Vanuatu. Next. Last year, they were struck by Cyclone and had three habitat national offices in Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji working together to provide assistance in the environment. And then we went to the community and then interviewed them. And apparently, a few years back, we had that home built in the environment. And we were quite pleased to know that the house survived, strange homeowner. And as cycling was raging on, all the other houses were being inundated, and the entire community had to take shelter in her disaster resilient house. So that's the kind of resilience that we want to make with families. Next, please. I bring it up closer to home. This is, we went back to Ache and went to the family, Agnes and Lisa. They were newlywed couple when the Indian Ocean struck Aceh. And we became habitat partners. We went back to them 10 years after the disaster and checked with them what has happened to them since we built their home. And we realized now that they have become a business owner. They're running a business from out their home. They had new addition to their family. They lost one who was born inside that home. And apparently, Agus also helped building other homes for other survivors. And because of the training that habitation, it was able to turn that into another skill that now uses for livelihood. And the same also for this woman. Sharada is one, she's the only woman in her village, a mason, who became a mason. She is from Nepal. So last year, almost all the houses in her community were struck. And when Habitat came in, we realized that everyone can help build their own homes. They're already starting to build back on their own. So why not give them the trainings that they need to build back better? So Sharada came and said that she's interested in learning and that she wants to be a skilled mason. And in time, we're expecting she will be able to translate that into long-term resilience in terms of livelihood, in terms of engineering and structural capacity in her village. Okay, so how do we see Habitat's youth in all of that disaster resilience building back better? First, of course, is volunteer during the relief phase. We just need more bodies and really the more young people in the community who are able-bodied, who are able to help the survivors the better. So relief, volunteering also for next nights. We are volunteering for the distribution of the temporary shelter kits and for training the community on how to use them. And then volunteering next for now building homes. That little girl on the left is me. That's in Nepal. That's one of the building breaking ground for the first permanent home in that community in Nepal. And then we also have, we need young people, technical and structural assessors, evaluators. Sometimes after a disaster, everyone thinks that their home is safe and cannot live there anymore. Okay, they cannot live there anymore. So we also need them to design resilient housing. They'll know how structurally and culturally what their community needs, so we need more young people to design resilient homes. Next. And then we need fundraisers. These are the activities that we're having right now. And then lastly, we need advocates. Next, please. To tell people that we need to build back safer in your communities, not just at the national level, in the local communities as well. Next. Yeah. Next, please. Next. Okay, there you go. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Angeline. So sorry for the limitation of time. Next speaker is Miss Alex. So please, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my presentation should be about the disaster risk reduction youth volunteers in Myanmar. It's a project funded by UNDP, UNDP, and UNICEF. But before starting the presentation, I just have a quick question. How many of you are participating in any youth group or network related to disaster, natural disaster, disaster resolution, climate change? Can you please just raise your hand? How many of you maybe are involved on natural disaster at community level? One, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, let's see. Maybe we have 10 people here. So I hope maybe with this presentation you would have a bit more idea about the activities you can do, but also how you can organize yourself at the community, township, or at the city level. Next slide, please. Next. So just a quick background about the hazard profile of Myanmar. Of course, like Indonesia, Myanmar is one of the most prone disaster country in Asia, with the natural hazard related to fire, earthquake, cyclone, hurricane, tsunami, landslide, drought. In the last 35 years, we had more than 29 natural disasters, with one of the most important in 2008 with Cyclone Nargis. But also we had, so this is a large-scale disaster, but we also now have very small scale disaster, but that impact a lot many area of the country. Like you can see the last floods in last August. So besides this vulnerability, the poverty and the low infrastructures in the country, in the 14 region states, really make it difficult in terms of vulnerability for the population, and also it impacts the ability of the population to recover from disaster. So we have the vulnerability to disaster, but we also now have the impact of climate change, and also what we can call the climate variability. So the probability for small-scale or large-scale disaster to happen today in Myanmar is very strong, is very high, sorry. So this means that the priority is to focus the action in disaster risk reduction at the local level. Next slide, please. So to understand the rationale or the importance of the youth involvement in DR, we have to understand that the impact of natural hazard and that the climate variability is increasing at global level, but also at regional level. We've seen it with the monsoon season this year, where the rains are much more important. We see it in the difference of temperature, so this is something already acting at the global level. But one thing to understand disaster risk reduction is that the risk is changing faster than our capacity to adapt to it. It means if you're trying already to find solutions for the risks that are existing in 2016, maybe in 2017 or 2018 it will be too late. So we need to start to think ahead. What are really the impact of climate change in the next 15, 30 years, and what are the sustainable solutions that we can bring? Can you please go back to the last one?
So, as we heard in the opening speech, there is a public to have, there is a need to have a public space and to work in our neighborhoods, which means at the city level, in the township level, at the village level, the community. And the youth are a key actor to link the communities to the national level, but also to the city. But they are the best link between the local, the national, and like we can see during our meeting today, also with the regional and the global level, because they are the voice also of their communities. Next slide, please. So as a study case for the Myanmar, the disaster, the DR Youth Volunteer project, it's a support to the government of Myanmar, which in 2014 launched a program and decided, actually after a meeting of the ADMER, in 2013, coming back from Cambodia, I think, decided also to have a youth network, as one of the panelists just presented. One of the ways to use the youth people is through volunteerism, and started to train people across the country. And until, to date, we have 10,000 volunteers that are trained in 800 villages. But at the beginning, the government did it without maybe a clear process or mechanism. And so this is where the project is supporting the government. And we started to make assessment in 3 pilot areas, which are Rakhine, Ayawardi, and Mon. And the relevancy is that this area don't have the same hazard profile. And we did a study about the gender balance, because it's very important also when you work with youth and volunteerism to really keep the gender dimension in mind, but also other to integrate like vulnerable groups in the selection process. Next slide, please. So the guiding principles, and maybe later for the group discussion, keep this in mind. For the youth participation, when you start to work on youth, you have to integrate it in the existing frameworks, either at your village level, community level, national, global. You always have to think, for example, Sendai framework, ADMER, you have to go through this. The second thing is to link it with the youth agenda. In many of the, almost now all the countries, we have a youth policy. It's important to go from there to understand how youth, what are the tools of youth to intervene in DR, what are the channels that are existing. Then it needs to be a multi-hazard, like to be related to all the disasters that can impact your area. Also, as we already said, it needs to be inclusive about language, gender, vulnerable groups, and of course to promote volunteerism value. Next slide, please. So to end up my presentation, I would like to present you the 3 components of the DR Youth Network in Myanmar. We have an institutional component, a management one, and the capacity one. For the institutional component, as I already said, you go from the existing frameworks and what is the role of the youth in these frameworks, but also what are the existing structure in your city, in your township, in your community that are involved in DR. And the most important, because many networks in DR are already existing, is to see what the others are doing. We could have the Red Cross or government structure. The idea is, if you are part of a group, for youth group for DR, to also see what would be your added value. In terms of network management, for example in Myanmar, the responsibility of the youth volunteers for DR, as Red Cross, for example, to first aid, fire services, to search and rescue. For this youth volunteer, the most important is to do awareness raising, mitigation. Because also when we talk about DR, we have the response, but we also have the reduction side. Next slide, please. And in terms of capacity, this is my last point and the most important. When we want to involve youth in DR, we have to think, what are they going to do? When it's awareness raising, mitigation, prevention, reduction of risk, we need to have a methodology. And also when we talk about disaster, there is sometimes people you send on the field, their life can be threatened. So you cannot just send youth people like that. You need to train them, you need to have a curriculum on the thematics, you need to give trainings, but also on equipment to be able to work with the people. And finally, at the community level, the most important as youth involvement in DR is what we call the simulation exercise. How at your community, in your city, can you really train people to know what to do if there is an earthquake or if there is an hurricane. And this is one of the main involvement of youth at the local level. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hinsadik. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, from the two speakers here, I make a little highlights from the two speakers. For the first speakers is a habit that has been mentioned, has been working in shelter since 1976, and they have main goals in reducing risk, respond to disaster, and build back safer. And from the second speakers, we know the importance of youth involvement in volunteerism, not only when the disaster happens, but also for disaster risk reduction. So, because we only have 10 minutes right for a question and answer, yeah, about 10 minutes. So, I think we want to give you opportunity to ask some question for three questions only. And then please mention your name and then where you come from and to whom you want these questions asked for. So please, 3 questions. No questions? Or singing first? Okay. Okay. From the left side, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Iqbal. I would like to ask about, and actually physically we're ready for the disaster risk reduction, but what do you think about how to recover? No, not recover. How to prepare mentally for the disaster risk? Thank you.
Sorry, Iqbal.
Yeah.
To whom you want this question asked for?
Anyone.
Anyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question. Okay.
Okay, hello, my name is Roni. I'm from Chingsang, Tennessee. I want to ask you, are you volunteers? And my question is, do you have legal contract, like a specific time of contract to the volunteers? And do you have like the problems with the contract to the volunteers, to your organizations? Thanks.
This question is specifically for Ms. Hinsadik, right? Okay, thank you. The third one. Is there any questions? Okay.
Hello, my name is Abi. I'm from Indonesia. I would like to know about the situation of disaster risk reduction in Manila because I know that currently a private sector in Manila has taken initiative to involve senior citizens and persons with disabilities to be a part of the disaster risk reduction program, and also UNSCAP along with the Incheon strategy has also taken the initiative. So can you elaborate the situation of persons with disabilities related to disaster risk reduction? Thank you.
Okay, we already have 3 questions for this session. Thank you for all the questions. Maybe for the first question, it's about the recovery and rehabilitation. Right? So, anyone? Okay, Mala, please.
Well, the new disaster risk management paradigm, which is disaster risk management, which means that so it covers the whole cycle of before the disaster, during the disaster, and after the disaster, and also doing the normal. So right now we are in normal times, and the new paradigm, which is a shift from the earlier paradigms where only national governments and the local governments saw that when the disaster happens, then they respond to it, or perhaps they just keep, let's say, a first aid. I mean, they will just respond when it happens, rather than preparing for it before the disaster. So the new DRM cycle talks about preparing for disaster in a very holistic way, and that is why if you would have seen the previous slide, the disaster risk management needs to be integrated in all the important sectors such as agriculture, food security, urban development, education, health, just name it. I mean, all these 17 SDGs have at least 15 of them have the disaster risk management indicators, which includes both natural disasters, climate change, as well as the social conflict-related disasters. So, I don't know, is it clear for you, or should I can give you examples too? Is it clear for you?
You want to add some?
Well, I just want to add that as one of the roles we see with the youth week is as awareness is in awareness raising and advocacy. So while we do have the policy, we need to make sure that the youth is doing their part in translating the policy into something that can be implemented by their local communities and their local governments. So during peacetime, as we have now, it is important that we are currently working with the different organizations in our society from the bottom up and see that they are prepared to meet a disaster when it happens.
Thank you. So, but Miss Hint?
So for the question about the contract, there is two sides in my answer. First of all, the project that is run in Myanmar is implemented by UNV, UNDP, and UNICEF. And in UNV, it's also it's the United Nations Volunteers. You can check it on the internet, www.unv.org. And so it's about volunteerism, and it's with a contract, but it's with a high value for volunteerism. It's a UN organization, but different, let's say, than the others in terms of volunteerism value. So this is the first part of the answer, because and then the second part is that in this project, what we push the government to do is to involve youth in volunteerism for DR. It's not that they're giving a position or a job. So we cannot really talk about the contract, because when we did the field assessment, many of these people, of these youth people, have a job. So what does it mean? It means that they're available maybe once day a week. The rest of the time they have a job. And this is all what we want. We want youth people that are involved in DR, volunteer, and that are trained following a specific methodology. And then when there is a disaster, they can stand with their community, with their city, with their township to help them. But for the youth volunteer network in Myanmar, we're pushing we're supporting the government to think about three types of what we call incentives, or three things that the volunteer can have. The first one is what we call the cash incentive, which means, for example, you pay for the trainings, for the cost of the transport, for the location, anything that is related to the activities. The second one is the in-kind part. When you see, for example, the youth people involved in the Red Cross, they have a t-shirt, they have a hat, they have a torch, anything that can help them in kind, equipment, for example, to intervene if there is a disaster. And then maybe the third thing that will be very also interesting for the youth people is the third type of incentive, which is having what we call awards or honors. Like, for example, they will have an ID card, a certificate, and because there is a huge part of youth people in the population of Myanmar, and we understand that if the government involves them in DR activities, there is a need to have something back from it from them. I mean, professionally speaking. So with the certificate or with the affiliation, to see, for example, if these youth people can be involved after their training in national NGO or in international NGO as an intern. So we try also to be sensitive to this part. I hope it answered to your question.
As for the third question, since I live in Manila myself and headquarters of my office is based in Manila, perhaps I could give some points. It's true that Manila is one of the most vulnerable areas in the Philippines, both to natural disasters. There's a fault line that cuts across Manila. And so it's vulnerable to earthquakes, but also to climate-related disasters such as storm surges, sea level rise, temperature rise, etc. Right now, we have an institutional arrangement with local governments in the Philippines wherein they have to allocate 5% of their internal revenue for disaster-related efforts. So we have DRR councils in local governments in the Philippines. And there are efforts to integrate marginalized sectors in society, including youth, children, into this DRR councils. And I think the question, the important question there is how exactly do you integrate these marginalized stakeholders into formal governance processes? And right now, there are efforts in the Philippines. We have a policy, we have a law in the pipeline which aims to bring in youth voice into these DRR councils, which means engaging the youth, engaging, opening communication lines with them, bringing them into the table for discussions on disaster resilience. So in as much as it's important for the youth to participate in various initiatives outside the local government level, it's also important to be empowered within the. I'm not specifically knowledgeable about the efforts to integrate persons with disability, but I know at least there are efforts to pull in different groups, different sectors, marginalized sectors from society, including the youth, children, representatives from businesses, etc., into these DRR councils. I hope that answers or clarifies the question.
Okay, thank you for all the speakers and for all the questions. So, Kathy, you want to add some explanation?
Okay. Thank you to all our panelists for those presentations. I'm very sorry that we started a bit late, so we have very little time for Q&A, but we really want to hear from your opinions and your voices. So I think we're going to break into the focus group discussions, and our panelists will still be around if you have some questions that you want to ask to individual panelists. Also, I mentioned that from UN Volunteers, and Habitat for Humanity mentioned their volunteering program. So if anyone is interested in volunteering in DRR or otherwise, also you're welcome to come and talk to either of us. So Tam's going to explain the focus group discussions, and back Audrey.
Okay, before we go to the focus group discussion, me and Malasri as the co-chair of this panel discussion want to say thank you very much for your kind attention to this panel discussion. And then we go to the MGD now, and we will separate in three intersecting topics right in now. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you, our speakers.
Thank you so much for that, indicator, as well as Malashi for moderating the session, for the wonderful speakers and the questions provided by the audience. If I can quickly ask for the nominated facilitation team, so the facilitators for the session, and perhaps even the rapporteurs for this session, just to come to the front and we quickly coordinate down here. So if you were assigned by the IYMM as facilitators or rapporteurs, please come to the front and we can help guide you with regards to the session. So now, with regards to this, you've had an opportunity to hear from the speakers, and as shared by him in the presentation, and in fact quite similar to the outcomes of the Asia Pacific Urban Youth Assembly in Jakarta last year, we had three key themes that seemed to emerge. And so these three key themes, firstly, number one was institutional policy and arrangements. The second theme was community engagement and implementation. And the third theme was education, training for volunteers in disaster risk management. I'll quickly pass to Pak Adri from UNHCR to share a little bit about that and continue on.
Thank you, Dan. Hi everybody, good afternoon. I still have the energy. I don't see any energy of you. So, I would like to ask you again, how are you do? Fine is very common answer. So I want you to make some positive and great answer. If I ask you how are you, you must answer great or luar biasa in bahasa Indonesia, okay? No, you have to answer luar biasa because I will ask you apa kabar, okay? Apa kabar? And you answer luar biasa. Are you ready? So apa kabar, everybody? Luar biasa. Apa kabar, everybody? Luar biasa. Okay, I can see that's power, yeah. Okay, baik. Little bit in back. Jadi nanti teman-teman akan dibagi menjadi kelompok, menjadi so become 6 groups ya, 10 ya. So each group consists of 10 to. This is your group facilitator ya. Nanti akan dijelaskan group mana, facilitator mana, macam group mana. Nah, tugas dari kelompok itu tadi disampaikan oleh Tam. Ada 3 pertanyaan kunci ya. Mungkin bisa ditayangkan tadi pertanyaan kuncinya, group boxnya masih jalan ya. Jadi 3 pertanyaan kunci itu yang seperti dijelaskan Tam adalah pertama institutional policy dan framework ya. Jadi kebijakan lembaga dan kerangka kerja. Maksudnya begini, teman-teman sebagai remaja itu, kira-kira teman-teman remaja itu saya bisa terlibat dalam hal kebijakan lembaga dan framework kerangka kerja yang mana? Itu satu ya, ingat ya, institutional policy and framework. Jadi kebijakan lembaga, tadi kan Ibu kita sudah menyampaikan, misalnya kita punya namanya Sendai framework ya, laporan framework. Kemudian tadi Hin juga menyampaikan pengalaman di Myanmar. Itu bisa sebagai seperti contoh. Kemudian juga tadi Marvel dari Kipli juga ya. Nah, kemudian yang kedua adalah community level engagement dan implementation. Nah, jadi pada level
Okay, thank you very much for the attention. You guys can choose one of the theme, which is the institutional or policy, the activities at community level, and the last is education or training. If these are your interest, up to you which one